I'm Al from Iconic Baseball.
And I'm Brian, the High Pop Professor.
Welcome to Brothers Duo!
Alrighty, and here we are. Welcome to Brothers Duo, episode 6. And so this is going to be about hobby evolution, loosely structured about hobby evolution. How you doing today, Al? What's new with you?
I've been busy. Moved into a new apartment a couple of months ago, and so haven't made any YouTube videos in 3 or 4 months. Been out of the loop a little bit. Haven't been in the hobby as much lately, but that just happens. Life happens. So it's long overdue. I'm happy to be back.
Me too. I realized last time I forgot to wear my my Brothers Duo hat that has the Greg Maddux and Mike Maddux autographs on them. That
Brothers Duo.
you gifted
Yes.
me. So
Yeah,
I'll
very
try
nice.
to wear this in future Brothers Duo episodes.
Love it.
But yeah. We actually, since our last episode, we both have changed venues, and so from episode 5 to episode 6, although that was like 2 months ago now. Very different background for both of us. So
yeah, you moved from one place in Philadelphia to another place in Philadelphia. I moved from one place in Denver to another place in Denver. So we haven't moved cities. We've just moved venues.
That's right. Very good. Well, yeah. So today, I just wanted to have a chat with you about how the hobby has evolved, how it's changed from when we were little. You're growing up in the late '80s, early '90s, mid '90s, all through the '90s, really, and how it is now. And I don't want to come across as a curmudgeon screaming at the clouds. Old man, get off my lawn, you kids these days chasing their shiny parallels. Well, to be honest, we were doing that in the '90s too. I mean, parallels were new in the '90s, but we were still involved in a lot of the same things. But I wanted to really take this in sort of two different directions. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I feel like we have fewer iconic cards coming out nowadays. I feel like, in the '90s, '80s, there were only so many TV shows. We had these sort of common shared experiences. Everyone watched Leno, everyone watched SNL, and so you could relate that with other people. And we only had a select few number of cards that were the big ones. Ricky Henderson only had one rookie, right? You look at the '83 class of Gwynn, Boggs, and Sandberg. There's like 3 rookie cards there, right? Griffey had like a dozen, but even amongst those dozen, there's one that stood out as the iconic one, the Upper Deck '89. Same with Jeter. Jeter had a dozen, but there was that one, '93 SP. That's the iconic card. And I might argue that the last truly iconic rookie card we've had is the Trout 2011 update flagship. And so I feel like with guys like Julio, like Shohei, how many rookie cards do these guys actually have? And is there going to be one that will emerge as like the iconic card? So I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about gambling in the hobby. This is one of those things that last couple of years, all these sports betting sites have been, endorsed clearly by the sports. You've got breakers, and we've always tried, and the thing is too, it's like we've always tried to chase the hits. Even as a kid, when I bought a pack of 82 Donruss, I'm looking for that Ripken. I'm trying, that's the hit I'm looking for. All right. I'm not going to be sad if I get a Pete Rose or sad if I get, Tom Seaver out of there. That's great. But we all know, like, that's what you're chasing. But I feel like the stakes have increased so high and so rapidly where, even in a pack of 92 Donruss, the best possible card you could get, that elite Ripken card, maybe a couple $100. Well, the best possible card you can pull now, well, look, we got a Paul Skeens, 1 of 1, rookie patch auto that now is a bounty of like $1 million on it or something. So, I mean, this is literally life-changing money. And so the stakes have been elevated. And I kind of just want to pick your brain and discuss both of those topics today in whatever order, take them for however long you want, and just bounce ideas back and forth on those.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do here. I love talking hobby. I love discussing this with just get a different perspective in the hobby with these things. So let's go ahead and start with again, how the hobby has changed. Fewer iconic rookie cards, a decline in set building, I think, is another one that has happened. How this hobby has changed over time. I feel like set building has and always has been like the lifeblood of the hobby. I think certainly for vintage. And even through the '80s, I think there was a big part of collecting. Look, I remember you having your Panini sticker binder
Sure.
right? Tell us about that. Was it 89? Was that the year?
I did 2 years of Panini stickers,
Yeah.
89 and 90. Yeah, I would just buy packs of Panini stickers, and it was a true set build. It was a true, you were trying to get every sticker, paste it into the book, peel it, stick it in the book. And it was truly a completist project where you almost wanted the commons just as much as you wanted the stars. And that's unique. And you don't hear about that as much now in the modern hobby. And it was even to the point where Panini would redeem, if you had doubles of 10 or 20 stickers and you needed 15 to complete your album, you could mail 15 doubles to Panini and close a list and say, I need these 15 to complete my sticker album. And they would literally mail you the 15 you needed in exchange for the 15 you had doubles or triples of. And it didn't matter whether you needed a Ken Griffey Jr. or you needed a Kevin Moss. It didn't really matter. And I was just as happy to get the Kevin Moss because that's one that I needed to complete my, White Sox or Yankees, but I think it was a Yankee. But it was a different mentality completing a Panini sticker album than now, where I feel like if you had 15 doubles in the modern hobby now, you would just send them back and say, yeah, give me 15 Shoheis.
Yeah, exactly right. They wouldn't have found it suspicious that they hey, take this extra Wally Joyner and Kent Herbeck and right. give me a Griffey and a Bonds. Give me
exactly
or something. Yeah, that's yes, that has changed. That has absolutely changed in the hobby. I mean, and I think it's important for us to think about this too. It's not all change is bad.
No,
I mean,
it was just different.
Yeah.
And then people that complain about the price of wax these days, they're probably not factoring in a couple things. One, inflation. The dollar has lost roughly half of its purchasing power in the last 10 years alone. And if you go back farther, then you're talking, inflation itself is a factor to consider. A pack of a $5 pack of cards back in the 90s, we're talking like an SP or a Finest, like that's the equivalent today of like a $20 pack or something, or a $15 pack or something. Then the other thing to consider is what you talked about, the potential high-end pull. When we were collecting in the 90s was a couple $100, might be the highest value card that we could even conceive of pulling out of a pack. And now the high end has completely blown out of the top end of the range, where you could get a 7-figure card. The Paul Skeens debut patch is probably a 7-figure card.
Probably.
And that factored into wax prices. Yeah, the gambling element, the chance that you could pull a 6 or a 7-figure card is factored in to that wax price. So not only inflation itself, but the high-end possibility to pull something life-changing, which really wasn't the case back in the 90s. I mean, sure, like fast forward now and like a PMG was possible, I guess, but it wasn't then.
Well, even the PMGs in the 90s, even the PMGs weren't more than $1,000.
No,
they were
not
a couple
even close. Yeah.
No. So your point still stands.
The difference is you can pull something out of 2024 wax that could be life-changing right now. So that wasn't the case back then. And so that's factored into the wax prices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that plus all the sports betting, the increase we've seen the last 5-10 years of all of the FanDuel and DraftKings and all that kind of stuff. I mean, even Fanatics, with a lot of their influence and their platforms that they're running and breaking too. I think the fact that the wax has gotten so expensive, the only way that regular collectors can get into some of these higher end, mid to high tier, ultra high tier products are to buy into a break. And I just feel like I am concerned about the long-term sustainability of anything where you regularly have 95% of people entering breaks or walking away with very little to show for it.
It's not a winning strategy. You're going to lose way more often than you're going to win, and that's not going to create good vibes among the people entering breaks.
It's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. Yeah. So
and you're not going to end up with what you want, really.
No.
You're
no. That's the other issue too. If we're trying to to enter in, usher in and hold people's hand and guide them into the hobby and show them how amazing this place is, do we really want to have them, 19, do we want to turn away 19 out of 20 people and leave them with an awful experience, that they can look back to? It's like, is that
that are viewing cards as a commodity or the prize of a raffle or a gambling venture, versus identifying something you truly love and going for it, and methodically going for it and trying to thoughtfully curate a collection for a reason, for a purpose, planting your bonsai tree, letting it grow, trimming it as you go, growing branches, making it what you want to be. That's the exact opposite of the breaker mentality,
and I don't want to pretend like anything has changed that much, because to me as a kid, as a 10-year-old in the 90s, like, I was also chasing the big hits. I was primarily, I like Greg Maddux. I had collected him obviously as a player, but really mostly when I went to shows and stuff, I was buying packs. I really was.
You were a big pack guy back in the day. You
did.
Guy. Yeah.
I had binder pages.
So
I'd pull out the Tony Gwynns and the Juan Gonzalez's, and to pull out the Pudge Rodriguez. I had pages of Griffey and Piazza and all this stuff. But and so I would sort them and organize them into player pages, and I would make trades for the Maddoxes and stuff. But that was my primary way of sort of engaging with the hobby, and I had a fun time with it. I understood that I wasn't going to get my value back out of most of those packs, but I did have a few hits, and those few hits, it's like a gambling dopamine rush. It's the big hits that bring you back for the next one, right? And so I feel like with the intensity and the increase, like you said, at the upper level, the ceiling of where this thing is going, and the elevated stakes, how can we take this seemingly innocent hobby of like a mother trying to buy, it's sports cards. Let's go buy a pack of cards for my kid. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you had to bring that one up. This is one of my legendary polls in the 90s. Yeah. This Ripken, Kevin Ory, Bowman's Best here. Let me full screen you for a second. If I can get that to do solo you. There we are.
Yep.
94
Best mirror image refractor. Ripken, Ory. That was one of your polls at Ocean City in 1994.
Yep. And you were Ripken
legendary
guy.
Card.
You were the Ripken guy. That's fantastic. But yes, but that was a huge card. Well, that was also a special card because Kevin Ory went to our high school.
Right.
And so that had extra significance beyond just a Ripken refractor being a huge deal in 94. But the fact that Kevin Ory was on there and was a young prospect and a young star, there was history there, just geographic significance to
and
that.
The fact that and I was a Ripken collector, so we had this guy from my high school, and then paired with the guy that I collected, it was pretty magical card back in the day for us.
Indeed. So so in that way, again, it hasn't changed all that much. But I wasn't deceiving myself. I didn't think I was going to get wealthy off of these packs. I was chasing hit after hit. I had a big Tim Salmon Dufex hit. It was a case pull from a 93 select update set that was there. I had a big hit. I hit that Ripken, another Ripken actually that I hit was the Pinnacle Express, the Metalworks Gold. It was a redemption card. It sent away, and they sent me back this gold, really heavy card. It was numbered out of 200. It was one of the biggest hits I ever. It was like a $300 card when I got it, which was really atypical. I didn't really have a ton of pulls like that, but I did have some, and I bought a lot of packs, and so it's going to happen.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like it's being marketed the way it's being marketed and sold. It's becoming less and less innocent, I think, as these stakes get elevated.
They're not trying to hide it anymore.
No. And speaking of not trying to hide it anymore, I feel like there's been these two circles, of the hobby and the gambling. They've become so closer now to the Venn diagram being overlapped and eclipsing. Where, look, we both just saw each other when we recorded our brand new intro, by the way. So hope you all enjoyed that. But we went to the local hobby shop where we were in Pittsburgh, and we saw literally inside the card store there were a couple slot machines just literally sitting there.
Yep.
And so there's literal gambling inside this hobby shop. And then the flip side of this is in Vegas now, there's that PSA vending machine that was there where you put in $50 and send you out a random slabbed card.
Yeah.
And
most likely you're going to get a junk slab, but yeah, there's a possibility for some pretty big cards in there, probably. I don't know.
Right, and I would imagine they'll probably depict some of the giant hits on there, saying like, "Hey, these are possible." No, they'll put one in there, it's a checklist like the repackers have. And speaking of repackers, now repackers, I think some of them, I don't want to spread misinformation, but it wouldn't surprise me if some of them are just putting $100 bills in some of these repacks. It's literal gambling. Like you could buy one and get a stack of, 10 hundreds in there. Oh, there's $1,000. There's your hit. And it's just literal gambling. I don't know where do you see this going in 5-10 years? I mean, how close are we to having regulations, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They have the gaming commission in Vegas. I have to think someone walks through and sees that PSA machine. Hey, what's this thing? And we've got to be close to it, right?
Yeah, I mean they're getting pretty darn close to just being gambling, but it's not an area of the hobby that I play in. I'm the opposite end of the spectrum, really.
Me too. Now I wasn't in the 90s. That's how I evolved as more of a player-run collector. But yes,
I'm probably not the one to speak to this because for me it's a very different hobby than for someone who's buying into breaks, putting money into a vending machine, or going to their local card shop and sitting down at a slot machine. So that's not what I'm about. I don't even have any of the gambling apps on my phone like a lot of people do. It's just not something that brings me joy. If I'm gonna spend money on the hobby, it's gonna be meaningful. It's gonna be something that I can actually keep and enjoy, and not just the off chance that I might hit something that's worth some money. I don't know.
I had a similar thing. I used to play poker quite a bit more than I do. I haven't played in like at this point years, and really it's kind of funny. Getting back into the hobby is one of the things that I sort of, because poker is weird because the way you keep score is well the money that you have there, and I just sort of felt like if you lose a buy-in at a poker table or something like this, I had a really hard time after getting back into the hobby thinking, well, I could play with that buy-in and maybe win some, maybe lose the entire buy-in. But if I lose the buy-in, effectively I'm losing a card like this.
Right.
I mean, gosh, you got this amazing, this is an SGC 9.5 Auto 10, 96 Leaf signature. I picked this up, last year. And it's, one of my favorite cards in my collection. And, I can't justify risking a card like that. It's like,
yeah, I feel the same way. I have
so bad losing it.
I got a couple friends that are into the gambling apps, FanDuel or, sportsbook apps, things like that. And, so I'll sit next to them at a ball game and they'll be like, yeah, I'm just putting, $20, $30, whatever. I'll see them lose like $100 on that app. And for me, like losing $100 would be like, you could sink $100 into a parlay. But like the last thing that I paid $100 for was this Frank Robinson 99 SP signature in a 9.5. like I just spent $100 on this. And
that's amazing.
So when I heard him say that, oh, I lost $100, then my mind goes to, well, crap, that's a meaningful card to me.
Well, Frank Robinson is so underrated. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but that's an incredible card, and the condition scarcity of getting that in a gem grade is just
it might be the other one. I don't know, but I mean, for me, like losing $100 is not a trivial amount of money when it comes to the hobby. I can do something with $100. Like that's a good amount of money that you could do something meaningful with in the hobby for me.
100%. There are a lot of great $100 cards out there. They're great. They're great $50 cards out there.
Sure.
So a couple of them, yeah.
And so even losing $20 here, $20 there, $20 there on these little parlays, these little bets, like that stuff adds up, and you're getting nothing. You're literally getting nothing for it, So that would bother me. That's why I don't.
Parlays like this has to happen, and that has to happen, and that has to happen, and that. So I mean, you're just.
I mean, people are enjoying it. Good for them. Have fun. Knock yourself out. But it's not for me.
I came to the same conclusion. I was just, based on what I could be doing with that, the opportunity costs just didn't make sense. I don't know. I think I'm too wired on just long-term
Yeah.
value, and realizing that, yeah, the $20 here, $30 there, it adds up. And I'm not against picking up $20, $30 cards. I love picking up $5 cards. I still do. But the fact is, yeah, if you're losing it, if you're dropping it and seeing nothing in return,
Hmm.
the card, that $5 card, I'm not buying it as an investment. I'm buying it because I love it. I love the card, like to look at it, like to have it join my collection. I can page through my top loader binder and see it. Look, I'm picking up dollar cards at the Philly show too. It's not like I'm just hunting the big ones.
Yeah.
If the big ones come along, great. And if I could pick one up, that's fantastic. But and with cards, whether they're $20 or $200, you can. The other thing about that is that if you do want to change direction of your hobby, you can sell it and recoup most of that money again. Maybe if you bought well, you can maybe even make some money off of those too. And I feel like when you're spending money on other hobbies, you can't, or gambling it away and it's gone altogether. Yeah,
Yeah. For me,
you're getting any of that value.
I'm risk averse. Really, is the end of the day, my
Right.
risk aversion outweighs whatever dopamine hit that I'd get from winning a bet. Like,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't win most of them. I'd
Mm.
probably lose most of them. And no, my risk aversion outweighs whatever rush I get, I would get from winning a bet. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Okay, so to bring us back a little bit to the I want to talk more about these iconic cards. We talked about these iconic rookies. Do you think that, in light of Shohei having whatever 200, 300, I don't know how many different rookie cards he's got, but it's way more than like the dozen that Griffey had or the one that Ricky Henderson had.
Yeah.
Do you think that there will be one or two that will rise to the top, that will become the next Mike Trout 2011 Topps update?
Yeah, I think in terms of images that are iconic, like
Sure.
you think of that 2018 Topps Chrome Soto hitting
Mhm.
image, and,
Yep.
and I think that is like the iconic Soto image. And so then there's parallels of that. You could get
Right.
the refractor of that, the pink refractor of that, the sepia refractor of that, the this and that, but it's still the same image. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of emerged as the iconic Soto image, a rookie image. Otani, probably the same thing. We just have fragmentation in the market today that we didn't have back in the 90s, 80s, high pop era. But I think there will still be iconic images that emerge, will continue to emerge, and people will target those iconic images probably more than anything else, or the numbered stuff that, really is low population and scarce. I think so. It's you either go for the iconic image or a parallel of the iconic image, or you go for something very low population that is numbered and scarce and unique. So I think those are the two directions that I usually go: either a parallel of iconic image, or something that I like the look of that's very scarce and numbered in the modern hobby.
What about his like pitching versus hitting images? Which
Yeah,
one of those do you think long term has more potential? I would just say in general, one of the things I love about Maddox is that pitchers in the hobby tend to not. I mean, they tend to stay more affordable.
Mhm. Yeah,
Now,
Otani.
but most pitchers don't hit 50 home runs either,
Yeah,
so that's
Otani.
not. We'll
He
have to
will
see
always
how
be different. He won't be priced as a pitcher for sure.
that-
And
No,
I think he's trending toward being a more dominant hitting talent than a pitching talent. I'm not sure when he comes back as a pitcher, will he be able to be as dominant as he used to be? Will his arm hold up? Will his body hold up and allow him to pitch, 100 plus innings? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, he's going to be an MVP caliber talent at the plate on the base paths. So you're maybe better off hanging your hat on the hitting images. But I don't know that it matters that much, to be honest, because it's kind of a fun novelty looking back at his rookie year where he truly was looked at as a two-way talent.
Mhm.
And maybe his later cards may not reflect that if he ends up transitioning to just being a hitter in
That's
the next 5
something
years.
as far as Babe Ruth. I mean, it seemed like a weird comparison at first, but now, in the last couple of years, what he's been doing, it's true. You wouldn't think of anything mid to late career for Babe Ruth. You wouldn't see pitching on there.
No.
You wouldn't,
And I think largely people want the hitting images of Babe Ruth. But there is also a fun novelty to looking at an early pre-war, 1920 or 1919, 1921 Babe Ruth image where he is throwing, where he's pitching. There are a few out there, some strip cards and things like that show him pitching, which are kind of cool.
And skinny.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I think there will be iconic images that continue to emerge. We just don't have the luxury of time yet. We're talking about rookies in 2018, so 6 years ago about. And so it'll take some time for those players to emerge and truly become, first ballot Hall of Fame locks. I think guys like Ohtani are getting there. I view him as a first ballot Hall of Famer already. He's already at over 40 WAR. And the way he's compiled that WAR is just it's unlike anything we've ever seen. And Soto is getting there too. He's in the mid 30s, I think, in WAR. He's only 26 years old. I mean, the only comps to this point are Ted Williams in terms of his walk to strikeout ratio, his OPS plus. I mean, he is the best hitter in the game. So I think we're pretty much sure now that both of those guys are going to be first ballot Hall of Fame talents.
I mean, for them to not, they would have to derail or get injured so badly that it's like a career-ending injury. And yeah. But short of that, I agree.
Assuming they play 10 years, because I think that is actually a requirement to be in the Hall of Fame, is you have to have at least a 10-year career, and they're almost there. But a few more years of play, and it's really just a matter of qualifying at this point, staying on the field. And if they do that, then they're pretty much, they've showed that they are first ballot material.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So is Soto on your top 100 list yet, or?
No, he's still below the surface. He's he's hanging out, because he still is 26 years old. So it really is hard to say, with 100% confidence that he's there, because he isn't quite there yet. But he's about as sure thing at age 26 as I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. No, totally.
So I've actually, been adding Soto items here in the last few years as I become more and more sure, so that when he does crack onto the list, and I think it's just a matter of when, not if, I'm ready. I have some things already.
Well, I think it's smart to position yourself in a place where, even though they're not there, it's kind of like a lot of Hall of Fame collectors. Well, by now they've already picked up the Ichiro stuff because it's kind of it's a foregone conclusion, right? I mean, it's not a mystery, it's not a surprise. So, and I think that's, you're just positioning yourself to be able to pick this up before it gets to its, to its eventual peak, and to not necessarily buy it at the highest. Yeah. So makes a lot of sense. Again, preserving that value, looking at long-term versus, gambling for short-term runs and gains. So
these are cards that I plan on having for a long time.
Yeah. Very good. So with this new year, it's people talk about New Year's resolutions. Anything you want to talk about as far as focus on the hobby, or what you're looking into doing or accomplishing this year? I know you have a very short list of very specific items you're targeting for your collection, and that plan probably hasn't changed a whole lot. But I didn't know if there's anything that you are you open to sort of all of them equally, or there's like 2 or 3 that you have a little bit higher urgency with that you might want to consider, something maybe happening in the near term that might make those items less attainable.
Yeah, some of them are just not fiscally a reality, because I just don't have, I'm not in a position right now where I'm ready to purchase a Lou Gehrig or a Babe Ruth autograph. I don't know if I'll ever be, but those are ones I'm sort of, it's at some point, hopefully. But so the guys that are sort of at the top tier of what I could afford are sort of my priority now. And there are 2 pitchers left on that tier, Walter Johnson and Grover Alexander. So those, and they're both around the same level, cost-wise, and they're probably the most expensive autographs that I could still work into a budget in the year 2025. So those are probably first priority. And then I'm always watching the current game and watching players and seeing what they're doing, and watching guys like Bryce Harper and Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Those are probably the next guys that have potential to crack into the top 100.
Very good, very good. You
How
gonna
about
plan
you?
to?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
the other thing. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt,
please.
but the other thing I resolved to do this past year in 2024 was get the remaining core collection that I have that's ungraded and get that submitted for grading. And I just did that as of yesterday.
There you go.
Got the very last of the ungraded cards in my collection that are not slabbed from my core collection. They are out grading at PGS and PSA now. So that's exciting to have that part of my collection kind of done in a way. Like I don't buy a lot of ungraded stuff, and the ungraded stuff that I have, I've been sitting on for decades. And so to finally have those cards out and in grading and eventually back in my collection and have some uniformity with my collection, and just the fact that they're all slabbed and encapsulated, you can better wrap your head around the value and flip through a slab binder and kind of keep them all uniform and together. That was big for me. So the rest of my collection is now all be slabbed and all be graded. And so that was a big achievement for me because, grading isn't cheap and it takes a lot of thought. What service level you're going to submit under? Are you going to grade the auto and the card, or just the auto, or just the card? Is this a card that would be better in a BGS slab or a PSA slab? Yeah, there's just a lot of considerations. And so every card requires that kind of a thought and close analysis to its condition, autograph quality. What would it look best in? I think of it in terms of an artist looking at a piece of art and what frame would suit that card the best. If my card is the artwork, what kind of frame would look the best on that piece of art? And so certain cards I think are best suited in a Beckett frame. Some are best suited in a PSA frame.
I just had this thought this morning. It's so funny you say that. I was thinking about my thoughts regarding SGC. I used to just not like their slab that much, and honestly, it's really grown on me. I've always liked it for vintage. I think it's always made a lot of sense for vintage. It looks fantastic. It looks like you're framing a piece of artwork is really what it looks like.
Right.
And I sort of view that black insert around it. It's almost like the mat of a frame.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it looks great with tobacco pre-war stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothers me about SGC,
any card with a border on it, really, I think works really well. And so I was always a little bit hesitant to pick up some cards that were like shiny cards with SGC holders, but I don't know, they're starting to grow on me a little bit. So
yeah, I know I'm in the minority with this, but I'm not a fan of the SGC flip. I just don't like the large, bold, black number that just smacks you in the face. And yeah, I know you can cover it up. You can put a sticker over it.
Just got to put a sticker over it. There you go.
Yeah. But
shiny card, but it's got a border.
See, I like to see the grade. I like to see the grade, but I don't like it to pop out at me. So I kind of, that's why I like the PSA. The BGS even kind of blends in a little bit better because it doesn't pop as much off the silver background or the gold background. And then you see these little subgrades. And the SGC slabs that I have are all the old style slab because the number isn't bold. And it's more of a technical grade. It's out of 100. And it kind of blends into the background for me. And so that's why I prefer the old SGC slabs to the new ones. And I'm not someone that will ever have a new SGC slab. Just don't appeal to me.
I mean, I've never, this is, maybe a hot take. I've never particularly liked the PSA flip. I've always preferred the Beckett. It's always been one of my favorites. And as far as the actual slab, the look of the cards in the slab, I kind of like the CSG and the CGC ones are clearer. They're almost the clarity of that slab is so much more like it's sort of like the Mag Pros. It's of that caliber of clarity, and the cards just look great in them. So I don't know. PSA is sort of it's the king of the hobby, and so when you're looking to buy cards because they grade the most of the ones that are available are already in PSA slabs. I'm not going to crack them out of there. I'm not going to crack out a PSA 9.
Right.
Okay, because look, there's a value attached to that number in that holder. So, I'll slap a sticker over the number so I don't have to stare at it. But there's the card. There's the card.
Yeah, to each their own. Everyone does it how they want to do it, and that's part of the beauty of the hobby.
So speaking of, again, hobby evolution, we got some news about Beckett very recently.
All right.
I know Beckett has been troubled this last couple of years. They've kind of been on the decline. The grading numbers aren't looking good for them. Okay, so what do you think about Beckett's prospects in the coming months and years here?
Yeah. I've always been a big Beckett guy.
Me too.
Back from the early days, I mean, I think collectors of our age, we have warm fuzzies when we think about Beckett and looking through the magazine, and we remember a time when Beckett was the leader. You know, a Beckett 9.5 was actually considered to be a higher quality card than a PSA 10, and the market gave it that premium back in like 2001, 2002. It was considered the premium grading service. They've slipped quite a bit since then, but I still think they provide an excellent service. I love their slabs. I think the slabs are the highest quality, most durable slabs on the market. I like the premium look of their flip, whether it's the 9.5 or the 9. It has that nice metallic quality, premium look to it. And so I think especially for the modern cards, anything, I'm not a big fan of Beckett for vintage, but for more modern cards, I love Beckett, and I think they provide still a great service. And I think this latest news, I don't know the ins and outs of this, but as I understand it, this parent company, Collectivus, seems to be positioning themselves to be acquired by a larger entity. They're trying to, infuse some more cash into Beckett. I think it was $250 million of capital that they have access to now to make the improvements they need to make and to, shore up their business. And part of what they just did, as they announced yesterday, was lock up their grading and authentication team long term. So guys like Steve Grad, I mean, this guy, you've probably seen him on Pawn Stars. He goes on with the Pawn Stars guys. But Steve Grad is a long-time authenticator of autographs, a big-time authenticator. And the fact that he is now locked in with Beckett adds a lot of value to Beckett. And if they would have started losing those guys, then that would have been a big red flag to me. Like, all the longtime graders and authenticators are jumping ship. That's not looking good. But the fact that Beckett is now locking up those guys tells me that they're positioning themselves either to rebuild their brand equity, or to be more, let's say, desirable for another company to come in and acquire them, because they have all this IP that they've just locked in now. They have all these personnel that has decades of experience in the hobby. And that's got to look pretty nice to a Fanatics that's looking to get into the grading space, add a well-respected brand name that, collectors, I think, would be okay now. I think there was a lot of hand-wringing at the beginning when Fanatics was inkling that they wanted to get into the grading game. But if it was Beckett, with this well-respected team that's been around for decades, Fanatics were to acquire them, I think most collectors would be somewhat okay with the fact that they would remain independent, and that the stringent, the quality would be there, and it wouldn't be this, conflict of interest the way people would be concerned about. So
that was going to say, having the makers of the cards also being the graders of the cards seems like, look, if you're already printing money, just start
you almost need
slabs on them, and
you almost need to acquire an already respected company to do that for you, because it looks worse if now you started Fanatics grading and then you just start sending your cards over to Fanatics grading that's owned by Fanatics, that's started by Fanatics, and the graders, they just came out of nowhere, and now they're grading Fanatics cards and they're being paid by Fanatics. It's like, okay, that looks really bad. But if it's Beckett, they've had the same graders and they've been independent and consistent for 35 years, and then Fanatics acquires them, they keep their operation the same. That looks a little better to me, at least as an outside observer. And so I think that's what's going to happen. That's my, I don't know anything anyone else does, but it seems
I would love to see Beckett make a comeback.
I
am in full support of watching that happen. I would cheer so hard for them. I just don't think that it's a good idea to have, the number of viable competitive companies out there dwindling. I think that, with competition, everyone wins. The collectors win. The consumer wins. Now that being said, so we'll have to see how that evolves over the course of this year and next year, and see what happens with Beckett. Although I think it's safe to say we're both rooting for them to win.
I think I would be sad if they went away, and I don't think they're going away, especially in light of this new news, this new money that's being infused, and any company that's locking up their grading team and authentication team to long-term contracts is not planning on going away. So that's a good sign.
Agreed. I was amazed at speaking of grading evolution. I was amazed just in the last year and a half, 2 years, what PSA has managed to do as far as acquiring the consolidating with the eBay vault. The fact that now PSA is one of the biggest eBay sellers. That's kind of amazing. That's just incredible.
Getting
I just bought a PSA auction. I bought it the other day. And so it's amazing what they're doing, and to have someone like Nat Turner at the head, being run by a collector, where now they're looking into basically having collectors and people put their own bounties out for cards. If you can now make an offer for cards that come through the grading table, and get notified of what's there, and you kind of know this is being done by someone who not just has the heart of a collector, but someone who's actually wanting to use this for their own collection. They want to be informed when certain cards hit the table, and I think that's kind of amazing to see where this streamlining will lead us throughout this year and next year, and what this is going to look like.
PSA is becoming its own marketplace, and it's impressive, and I think the company is really looking toward reaching the masses, especially with the GameStop relationship, where now you can go into GameStop, submit your cards for grading. That's cool. I think the next step is now all these cards that PSA has on their marketplace, they may start shipping cards to GameStop locations to put on display. You might have a case of cards on display in a GameStop that are on sale at the PSA marketplace. They may circulate them throughout GameStops around the country as inventory. You sign an agreement saying that your cards are insured, and we'll take on that liability for PSA, but we're going to send out cards to GameStops and try to hit malls all around the country. And now you have collectors going into GameStops to see what the inventory looks like there. And you could totally see Fanatics doing something similar with Lids stores. So you could have Lids, which is Fanatics owned. The Fanatics owns all the Lids stores. So you have, in every mall, almost, you have a Lids and you have a GameStop. So if Fanatics acquires Beckett, okay, now they can compete directly with PSA. You have Beckett slabs being sold, Beckett orders being taken at Lids, and then you have PSA orders and PSA slabs being taken at GameStop. And you could totally see now a world where, you go into any mall in the country and you have two locations competing with each other. Are you going to be the Beckett guy at Lids, or are you going to be the PSA guy at GameStop? And you could have both options. So you have some competition there.
I'd love to watch this video again in like 5 years.
Yeah.
And just see, is this what happened? I would love to see. It's an amazing idea. I mean, it really is. I know a lot of malls have sort of gone by the wayside. Amazon's kind of, putting a dent in a lot of the retail shopping space. But I will say, I also wonder, the whole GameStop PSA thing just fascinates me. And part of me wonders if it's even a good idea for them. I mean, I understand. I get the idea about branching out the tendrils and expanding their reach and reaching different demographics of people who wouldn't otherwise, to put a PSA sign in front of the gaming audience or the TCG players especially. Look, just
TCG is a great little entry point there. Yeah,
absolutely. I was helping my daughter break open some Pokemon packs the other day, and I got a couple of cards here that I'm now considering sending in. And, I'm not a PSA member. I've never been a Collectors Club member. But if by going to a GameStop, if I can get as a sort of a group submitter rate by sending in some of these TCG cards, that seems like it's a good savings. It seems like probably the way to go. If I can submit them for the $12, $13 card level without having to be a member and just drop them off at the local GameStop, that seems easy.
Yeah. They're removing the barriers to entry. They're removing barriers to submit cards for grading, and they're removing barriers to selling cards. So once you get them graded, they'll just keep them and sell them for you. You know, so it's,
Yeah.
yeah, they're doing some good things. I mean,
I'll say the whole hobby is just becoming so streamlined, you know, and
yeah.
I have to wonder if big companies like eBay are sort of looking at this, and it's like, well, gosh, you know, if these cars are being graded and just sold immediately from PSA without eBay getting their cut, you know, I have to wonder if they're getting, I mean, well, eBay is big. They sell all kinds of things, not just cards, but you do have to wonder how they are working to maybe counter this, whether they're going to start lowering their selling fees or whatever it might be to try and keep that competitive edge and prevent themselves from losing so much of this business that is now going to be streamlined out of their line of sight.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know PSA sells a lot on eBay, so
right.
There's a relationship there, and they're doing fine. You know, I think
PSA
is bringing more business to them than is taking from them.
Interesting. Yeah, probably. Hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, that's a very fair point.
Because how many listings have you clicked on eBay and the seller is PSA?
PSA. Yeah, quite a few of them. Yep.
eBay is getting their cut.
It's interesting because some of them are auctions, but many of them are just listed as buy it nows as well. And the buy it nows are listed at a pretty competitive price I've seen. You know, and so it's not like they're necessarily, well, some of them are a little bit high, okay, to be fair. So I guess it depends on the listing, but it is fascinating to see how quickly that PSA's feedback rating has skyrocketed up for being as new of an account as it is. It's already in, you know, in like the millions or something. It's already crazy.
Think how many cards they grade every month, and
well, exactly.
Even if 5% of the cards they grade goes right on the marketplace or right into eBay, that's a lot of cards.
That's a lot. Yeah. I don't know. It's just still such an exciting time to be in the hobby, and I feel like, you know, as much as things are changing and the landscape keeps shifting, it's still fun. It's still fun to track down and hunt the cards you want. It's still fun to buy and sell at shows and on eBay and online. I'm having a blast with it, and I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to add before
I'm finding great values in Beckett slabs right now. I mean, like I just showed you the Frank Robinson, and then the last card I bought was this Yogi Berra. It's
nice. Full screen you for a second.
Donruss signature, significant signature of Yogi Berra, which is a very condition sensitive card in a 9.5. You know, and this was like $150. So
wow.
So Beckett slabs are not getting the love. So I'm kind of using that to my advantage and trying to pick up really great deals on high grade Beckett stuff that I love. So this is a great time to be, I think, just picking up cards you like that happen to be in Beckett slabs and happen to be way cheaper than they should be. You know, because I don't think it'll always be that way. Just because it's that way right now.
That's a number to 2,000 card, but I think in that grade tier, probably single digit pops, right?
Yeah, I think it's a pop 9.
Okay, there you go. I didn't know, but I was guessing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But just a card you don't see in a gem grade.
No. I mean, and here's the thing: all those pack pulled autos from the 90s, like, you know, having had our relationship with Sean Casey and literally going to his house and seeing these boxes of cards that haven't been released yet because they were sent to him for him to sign, autograph, and send back, you realize, like, this is not stickers. This is not like a sheet of stickers that they're slapping on. These cards never see the light of day until they're packed out. No. These were all physically handled by these players.
Mailed both ways,
in, out, back to the company, packed out, opened by some other person.
And then what? And then they had to keep it safe.
Yeah. So just anything that's on card autograph from the 90s that is somehow still a mint grade.
Yeah.
Let alone gem mint. I mean, if that's even a thing.
And in some cards, it isn't a thing. There aren't any.
Right. That's the issue. And, you know, some of those Donruss signature cards that have dark borders, dark edges, and where every little touch of white's going to show, you just look at it too hard. Like that. Okay, let's go ahead and let's give, you know, more Beckett love. Look at this.
Yeah, beautiful. One of the more condition sensitive sets in the 90s, probably. You know, just dark border all the way around.
Centuries. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that card.
Wow.
One of my favorites.
Nicely done.
And you just you're targeting the Maddox now, right? You're looking for that 98 Maddox.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I have the 97 here. Let me bust. I know I showed the 96 already. Let's see if I can find where this 97 went. If I didn't have it in my, let's see here. Here it is. Yeah, I got this. I guess I should probably solo myself here if I can get this.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Here we are. This is the one. Yeah, that was a really bad glare, but anyway.
Those are great sets.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a PSA assigned 9 auto 10s when I submitted this year, but
Nice.
but yeah, same kind of deal. I have the 97. I would like to get a century mark. That's one of the things I want to target. And so either 97 or 98. I'd probably look for the 98 just for a little variety in those. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm targeting. I'm also kind of interested in the idea, and maybe this is a different topic for a different video. We're already getting kind of long, but I would be interested in maybe I'm kind of fascinated by the idea of like early rookie era autos versus playing days autos versus post playing day or late career or post playing days autos, because a lot of players, their autographs evolve and they change over time, and so I have a variety of Griffey autos from different eras, and I'm kind of interested in maybe looking at the same thing for Barry Bonds. I have a rookie era autograph. I may want to get something like a Donruss Signatures era Barry Bonds Millennium Marks or something like that coming up. Yeah. So,
and I know you have a couple. I know you have a couple different Maddox eras as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, I got some early ones. I got some late ones, and I even have somewhere I have one of those post, but they're all different, and they all have their own hallmarks, characteristics, and I just think playing by the numbers here, I feel like right now it doesn't seem to matter much, but it's one of those things where moving forward, it's like the population, you can't escape a low population. And so I feel like if you're sitting there signing year after year after year after year in retirement, there's going to be way more of those when it's all said and done than there are going to be playing days, and way more playing days ones than there are rookie era from the first year or two of someone's career. And
Very good point. And you can see something similar if you just rewind. You go back in time to when Mickey Mantle was a young player. When Mickey Mantle was an active player, you can tell the clear difference between a playing days Mickey Mantle autograph on a ball or on an index card or on a program. His autograph changed.
Yes.
A playing days Mantle autograph gets extremely, infinitely more money than one he signed later in the 90s at a card show. I mean, he has a beautiful autograph either way, but if you have a playing days Mickey Mantle autograph, that's something really special. But there aren't that many of them out there. And I think you'll see something similar with like Shohei. Shohei had a certain way he signed for his first year or three. He had this certain style of autograph that he signed his rookie year, 2019 and 2020 a little bit. 2021, his autograph changed. And so now Ohtani autographs look a certain way, different than they looked their first 3 years. And so I have an Ohtani autograph from 2020 that's still the early autograph. And I love that because I think when you fast forward 15 years, 20 years, 40 years, and you have this body of Ohtani autographs out there, probably tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of autographs that he signed.
Yeah.
Only 5% of them will be of the early autograph variety, much like Mickey Mantle. Only a very small subset will be that. And I think that'll do good things for those early autographs. Yeah. And that's a good example right there.
Right. Really early rookie era Barry Bonds.
Love it.
So this is, so I've got the rookie era. I'd like to get a mid-career and maybe even a post-playing days, just because it's a beautiful, I love what he's done with his autograph. It's just gorgeous looking now. But I do think that the number of them out there, the significance of the early one, and just the lower population of it makes it, for me, the more important one to have.
Yeah, I agree. And Bonds really didn't sign that much. He was known as being pretty standoffish, and would routinely ask people for money on the street if they wanted his autograph. I mean, he wasn't the slam dunk autograph guy to go to and get an in-person autograph back then. Right. So
and now look, hey, he's going to be in products coming up here again for first time in 8 years. He's back in products, so people are flipping out about that too. And
another example where that'll further water down the modern Bonds autograph market.
Yes,
but
exactly.
the Bonds autograph you just showed will probably be unaffected because that's clearly an early playing days Bonds autograph that, there's not more of those being signed.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, anything else to add? But sounds like we're kind of winding down here.
No, I think that was a good conversation.
Cool.
It was good to get back at it.
It's great to get back at it again. I agree. So anyway, well, thanks for joining us on this episode 6 of Brothers Duo. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Brian.